Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one! Another one!
Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Welcome aboard. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition with me. Jim Coyle here. As always, hope you guys are ready. We're getting closer to the weekend. Don't forget, brought to you by our good friends, Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, and, of course, our good friends from the Wow Club. Make sure you go get yours. Join. It is totally free. Sign up. Go to your Google Play Store or Apple App Store and start earning rewards today. Places like Southern Stone. Dustin Schutte, how are you, sir?
I am doing great. I've got my Bill Belichick look going today. I've got the rattiest sweatshirt I could possibly find put on. So, it's a comfortable Thursday.
It's not ratty enough, I guess, to give the Bill Belichick appearance because I did not get that. Tony V jumping in, 5 lefts, Ross. Well, maybe that, but you have an undershirt on, so we can't tell the holes.
Oh, that's true.
We're getting closer and closer to draft day for everybody. NFL draft, NBA draft, of course. That's what a lot of lives are made and broken on those days, Dustin.
Yeah, and it's it's interesting on the NBA side. It's going to be interesting for both college football and college basketball because of the new NIL stuff. I mean, you're seeing players that are returning because they're going to get name, image, and likeness opportunities. Oscar Tshiebwe at Kentucky is a great example. Trace Jackson Davis is potentially an example. Hunter Dickinson at Michigan is an example. So, it's really interesting how this has kind of changed because now players would leave and pretty much get some sort of I don't want to say surefire because some players don't get drafted, but they'd get some sort of, money, whether it was in the NBA or go play overseas or the G League or something of those sorts. But now you can return to college and you can play for 3 or 4 years and you can bring in some money. So it's completely changed everything, and it's going to be it's always fun. And I know that there's a lot of teams depending on or kind of sitting on the edge of their seat, waiting for those final decisions to be made.
Let's see. When Chris joins us later, Chris Denari, this is in regards to the problems everyone has had watching the Pacers on Bally. Possibly returning there. A spokesman would not comment on whether Pacer games would return to Bally Sports Indiana next season, but if they do, fans who have been unable to stream games for several seasons might have a solution. We'll talk about that. That's the most ridiculous. That's ridiculous. How does professional sports get locked out like that for multiple seasons? That's crazy.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why, even this with Major League Baseball. I mean, I'm sure that there's a monetary situation going on with the cable companies. I mean, I'm sure that's the reason. But if you pay for the, whatever it's called, the Major League Baseball package, whatever that's called, or NBA League Pass, you should have, or NFL Kickoff, or whatever all that stuff's called, you should have access to every single game. I don't care what market you're in. If you're paying for that product, you should have access to those games. Or in this case, I think all three, maybe just MLB and NBA, they have a package where you can follow a specific team. Like, you're paying money to watch that team.
I think they're working on something just that. Fans, according to the piece in the Indy Star, fans have been unable to access Pacer games, who have been unable to, for the past 2 seasons on streaming services such as Hulu, Fubo, Sling, and YouTube TV, which is what I have, due to an ongoing dispute between Sinclair Broadcasting Group and the streaming providers. However, Bally Sports announced that it will now launch a direct-to-consumer service in September. Through this service, fans will be able to pay $20 a month or $190 a year to watch Bally Sports networks in their home market. Of course, now they're going to charge you another $190 there. So I don't know how well that's going to go over. How did Bally Sports get the rights to this is what I guess I want to know.
I mean, they had to have had some sort of deal with Fox Sports, because now it's all what used to be Fox Sports Net, I believe, is completely Bally Sports. I don't know. I didn't even know Bally Sports was a thing until until whatever it was midway through last season that Chris Denari, said, "Welcome to Bally Sports," or whatever the case might have been. I didn't even know that was a network or a thing, or it just made the transition from Fox to Bally one day. But apparently that's an outrageous price. $190 for a year. Okay.
Currently, the only streaming provider that offers Bally Sports Indiana is DirecTV Stream. As a point of price comparison, the cheapest plan that includes Bally Sports Indiana costs $90 per month. The NBA League Pass, which allows all out-of-market fans to watch games, is $29 a month. So you can get everything for $29 a month.
Yeah, okay, but see, are they still going to black out the Pacers games? Because they said out of market. Right? Didn't you just say out of market? You can watch out of market games for $30. But if you're in Indiana, you're still not going to be able to watch it.
You can on DirecTV. Ross chiming in, Bally and Marquee. What's up there? Bally and Marquee both are terrible. Blackout regions are stupid. Yep, I agree. Five Lefts does not like it. That's ridiculous. So if I have an NBA ticket, I have to pay an extra $20 to watch the Pacers and the Colts. No, thank you. Of course they're going to get their extra money, baby. They're getting their money. Without question. Everybody's going to get their piece. It's Cinco de Mayo. I didn't realize that. Hey, thanks, Ross. Happy Cinco de Mayo. La cucaracha, la cucaracha, la 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 la. I don't even have my coffee.
I was going to say, will you be partaking in the festivities this evening?
I wish I was partaking right now, but if I had coffee, I would be partaking right now. I promise you.
That'd be close enough.
It would be good. Let's see. What else is going on that's of interest and news of fun to talk about? Besides people getting screwed to watch the Pacers games. Let's see.
Well, the good news is you did not miss much last year.
All right, let's see. Renata says her hubby gets the Major League Baseball network for Cubs games. Due to that, her internet address says Fort Wayne. When she lives in Southern Indiana, all those games are blocked out. Oh, there you go. That's crazy.
Isn't it like
you gotta go
where
around?
There's some place that I think I don't know if it's the entire state of Iowa or what the case is, but Iowa's blacked out of like 7 teams, like the Cubs, the Reds, the Brewers, the Cardinals. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, those guys, they can't. People in Iowa can't watch baseball because of how many blackouts there are. It's like, again, to me, if you're paying for that package and if you want to increase the cost a little bit, I'm fine with that. I just don't price people out. But if you they should be able to watch every game, whether they're in market or out of market. If you're paying for that product, it's asinine to me. But it's all about dollars and cents. It's always been just ridiculous in my opinion.
Dollars and lack of sense.
I like that.
It is. It's generally dollars and a lack of common sense.
Yep.
Tim says that Matt Roth was named the head coach at Blackhawk Christian High School up north that's a little bit of, I didn't know Matt was into coaching. I'll have to reach out to him and try to get him on the show as soon as possible. But congratulations to him, former Indiana sharpshooter. Remember Matt Roth?
I do remember Matt Roth, the Tom Crean era.
He could shoot it. He could sure stroke it from three, man.
Yeah, he could.
But congratulations to him. It's always fun when you see people getting involved in the coaching. Yeah, and then the first thing you ask yourself is why? Kidding. Jeff's a Reds fan, and he can watch every game. Please black him out. I hear that. What in the world at sea? Not only are they 3 and whatever. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know whether it's worse to be an A's fan or a Reds fan. Have you seen some of the
I can
games?
tell you. Right now, I can tell you which ones. My God, are you kidding me? The Cincinnati Reds are 3-21. So they win by default already. And just yesterday, they got beat, like 18 to – they gave up 18 runs yesterday. I saw 18 runs. I used to look and follow because I'm a Reds fan. Yeah. Now I look and follow just for content for the show.
That's a good idea.
They're a joke. What do you do when you're that bad professionally? They are that bad. They've traded virtually everybody. That's why they're 3-21. But now what do? Build up you got to replace it with your farm system? Your AAA team's in last place because they're terrible.
What's the do we know offhand what's the worst record in MLB history? I'm going to look that up right now. It's 20-134. Now that goes back to the looks like that goes back to the Cleveland Spiders. They might.
They've got a shot at it. Especially somebody pointed out 2 of their wins came in the opening season of the year. Against the
Braves.
Against the reigning World Series champion Atlanta Braves.
Well, the Braves can't hit, so
they've won 1 game since the opening series this season. 1. Uno.
Why does Joey Votto still want to play? Could you imagine
for the Reds?
I would be out of there.
Yeah. Because he's getting paid every day
but I understand that, but at some point I would fake an injury. Yeah. It has to be painful to go back to that locker room and lose every game when you're as talented and you've had the career that he's had. I'm not saying he's like, the premier first baseman in the MLB, but he's had a solid career.
And you know what? You can't use the excuse of small market crap. I'm tired of that because the Milwaukee Brewers, the entire National League Central is filled with nothing but medium market squads. The Cubs are the biggest out of the bunch, but they're second to last. So the Cardinals up second. They're a couple of games out of first, but I know we got to take a break. Oh well, the Reds suck. That's all there is to it. Hey, we got more coming up. We got Tristan R8, Matt Taylor. DJ's with us today as well. We got to get to it. But most importantly, you're here. Dustin Schutte's here now. And we'll be back with more. It's Jim Coyle, Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by our good friends at Southern Stone Restaurant, located on Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. Comfort food with Southern fare. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting...
That's a good read, John.
What's a good read?
Your commercial, your break. Sounds very
Oh, you
radio.
mean the ins and outs?
Yeah,
Thank you. We've been doing those for a long time.
I know, but I know. Better late for me
He's
to
just
recognize
being
it
a
than
very
never.
friendly person.
I am real friendly.
Thank you, though.
Let's see here. I was going to write down the
Boy,
Colts draft.
Jeffrey the Greek says he's going to have me do his new podcast intro. I don't know when he's going to have me do that, but he said he was going to have me do it.
Oh, they're doing a podcast intro?
I guess, do they not have one?
No.
Yeah, he said he originally wanted to have a female voice do it, but for some reason he wants me to do it. So maybe he'll send me some free Amador. We probably have Amador here in Kentucky, actually.
I can only find the Chardonnay, and good, but I cannot have too much of it. Otherwise, there's a problem the next morning. And that's not always the case with bourbon for me.
I'm not really a fan of it, but if he sent me free bourbon, I would try it.
Well, here's what you do, though. People go straight in. Start with like a cocktail.
The first bourbon I had, and actually the only bourbon I've had, was straight. Man, what was it called?
What, like Old Crow or Wild Turkey or something?
No, it was the person's name was on it. It wasn't Jim Beam.
Evan Williams.
No.
Elijah Craig.
Yes, Elijah Craig.
The father of bourbon.
Yeah, first and only swig of bourbon I've ever had was Elijah Craig.
Well, he's known as the father of bourbon.
And that's relatively good stuff. So I never drank bourbon until I moved down to Georgia, and I started with it in cocktails, and then I graduated to old fashions, and then I graduated to now I just drink it. I don't usually drink it neat. I don't like the warmth of it, but I'll drink it straight or over ice on the rocks.
I guess it's kind of like how I did with coffee. When I first had coffee, I did it with a bunch of crap in it. And now I just drink it black.
Kroger has a Maker's Mark 101 right now for $30.
Is it like an intro bourbon?
101 proof.
All right, here we go. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on this station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by BB's Market in Bloomington. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Cinco de Mayo here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Dustin Schutte. Where's your sombrero? Check out the kid in the sombrero.
I do not own a sombrero, unfortunately. Otherwise, I would have broken it out.
You should have. Don't forget, brought to you by BB's Marketplace, part of the WOW Network. BB's, I cannot wait. I think of that. I think of summer grilling. BB's Marketplace is your local meat shop, steakhouse, and caterer, no matter where you live. With some of the best custom meats around and in-house dishes made, you can reach out to them. Visit bbsmarket.com and order online. I grilled last night. I live
What'd you
grilling.
grill?
Just hamburgers last night. Something quick and easy. But hamburgers catch fire.
Not if you do it right.
Well, I meant the grease off of this particular grill that I have now. It's an electric grill. I hate it.
It's a George Foreman?
No. It's actually a little grill. It's got a heating coil in it, but it's different, man.
Are you okay? preference? Do you have a preference on charcoal or gas?
Well, if I had the time, charcoal, but
Okay, me
not,
too.
That's just not convenient, man. Now when you can go out there and fire up the you walk out there and just fire up the gas grill or any other way where you can just turn it on.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but to me, it's not a huge difference in time.
Well, you're getting ready. What are you getting ready to do again? Go on vacation again. Exactly. Of course, it's not a huge thing of time for you.
Matt's here.
Thank you for joining us, Matt. How are you, sir? From the Indy Colts. As I was getting ready to chide Dustin Schutte, he's talking about, we're talking grill preferences. Well, of course, I prefer charcoal over gas, but I have to work all the time where Dustin is taking vacations all the time, so he can light charcoal all day long. So how is Matt Taylor doing?
Well, I'll get out there and, I'll either put too much lighter fluid on the charcoal or the charcoal will not stay lit. And then I'm just, then it takes me like 3.5 hours to make a cheeseburger. That's my problem.
Exactly. And otherwise, walk out there with the gas grill, you turn it on, bam, it's lit, ready to go. You warm it up, scrape it off, and throw it on.
Yeah, I like the Blackstone. I've got a Blackstone, like one of those griddle tops. Those are pretty cool, pretty convenient because they're easy cleanup. But if I did have the time, which I don't, I'm sort of in your camp, Jim, then I would go with the smoker. I would like to take a class on a smoker, but I'm not. I don't have that kind of time, nor the patience probably. But that's. I mean, anytime my neighbors actually have a smoker, he's got 2 of them, and that's like better than having a smoker. It's like knowing someone with a pool. You don't have a pool, but you know someone that does. I know a guy that smokes. So he's got, the briskets and the ribs, and every time he makes something, he saves me a little taste. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds there.
If I had a smoker, I would have life beat because that means I would be smoking meats. And if you're smoking meats, you're doing nothing but sitting around and watching and braising and sitting down in your chair. That means you're sitting there for like 8 hours doing nothing. I would give a lot to not do anything for 8 straight hours.
That means you have achieved a certain lifestyle that you can do that, right?
Exactly.
But he's actually got it. He's really sophisticated, or at least his grill is. I shouldn't give him too much credit because he's got the Traeger where you plug it in and then it's got its own freaking app and it's connected to Wi-Fi. So it tells him, like, the phone will buzz or alert and tell him, hey, it's time to go flip the brisket, or it's time to switch out the wings, or turn it up, turn it down. So I shouldn't give him too much credit, but I'm telling you what, this thing absolutely works. And anytime he makes anything on this thing, it's some of the best whatever I've had coming from the smoker on the Traeger. So highly recommended. It's got the pellets, it churns out the bag of pellets, and I don't speak the language, but tell you what, he knows what he's doing.
That's one. My dad has one of those where it's probably the same thing you're talking about, Matt. It gives him updates on the situation. And then it'll automatically, whatever with the wood chips, it automatically fills it in when there's a need for more of them. Like it's insane how technologically savvy these things are now.
Yeah, this thing that he has, it's like doing his taxes, playing Pandora. I mean, it's basically like a robot. It's like a Roomba too. It's vacuuming under his table after the dinner as well. It's beautiful.
Oh my God, that is amazing. What is new with Matt Taylor as we're creeping into springtime?
We are creeping into springtime, which means the draft is it's over. It's come and gone, and the Colts drafted last week. They picked up 8 players, 4 on day 2, 4 on day 3, and really addressed some needs, especially the top of their draft with some pass catchers, with wide receiver Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati, tight end Jelani Woods out of Virginia. And so if you look at sort of the some of the common threads, common denominators of this draft for the Colts, it's playmakers, it's dynamic on offense, it's versatility, it's athleticism. I mean, if the Colts draft class were to compete in the Olympics, I'm saying they're coming home with a bunch of gold and silver medals because of how athletic they are. You've got guys with a lot of position flexibility too, just straight football players. I mean, Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati, a stud wide receiver now, but he started as a linebacker, played basketball and volleyball at a high level in high school. Jelani Woods was a quarterback at Oklahoma State, then switched to tight end before transferring to Virginia. They drafted Bernard Ryman at left tackle. They think he has tremendous high upside to potentially be, the left tackle of the future, that cornerstone of the offensive line. He comes from Central Michigan. He's a transfer guy, or I should say he's a foreign exchange student initially. He comes from Austria, didn't start playing American football until about 14, bulked up. He started as a tight end, then he switched to tackle there and gets drafted in the third round. So, same traits are true for the guys that were drafted on day 3 for the Colts. A lot of upside, a lot of position flexibility, and just tremendous athletes. So the Colts needed to be more dynamic on offense, and they needed more depth on the roster in this draft. And I think those are the two big hallmarks of what they were able to accomplish with bringing in 8 players this past weekend from the draft.
Yeah, and to really hit on the needs, like you said, right across the board almost, wide receiver, tight end, offensive lineman, they've really went specifically for the guys that they need, defensive tackle, and I think they did pretty well, Dustin.
Yeah. I was going to ask Matt if there was a player that stood out to him that they were able to get. I look at that third round, Matt. I thought that they got the 2 of the bigger steals in the draft with Bernard Ryman and Nick Cross. I thought that those 2 guys were second round potential. And again, when you talk about filling some needs, especially on the offensive line, I think that's a really good pickup, because we talked last week. Outside of those top 3 guys, you're probably not looking at a guy that's a day 1 starter. So I think he can over time develop into the long-term player and have a nice career for the Colts. And then Nick Cross is a guy, I think he's not a guy that's to me a day 1 starter, but he's a guy he's got talent. He brings big hit ability. And I think if he's coached up, I think he can be another really solid player in that secondary. So to me, those were 2 guys that I was surprised to still see on the board in the third round. Was there anybody in the Colts draft that you were surprised that they picked up, or that you think is an absolute steal?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think a lot of those guys, quite frankly, the Colts sat there at 42 initially to start day 2. Now they traded out of 42, moved back, 11 spots to 53 with the Minnesota Vikings. So in return, they get a couple of extra picks from Minnesota. They got that extra pick in the third round, which they used on Bernard Ryman. But all of the guys, Dustin, if you just stop the draft on day 2 with their first 3 picks, with Ryman, Woods, and Alec Pierce, all of those guys, in my opinion, were guys that you could have thrown in the mix at 42, and they got all 3 of them. So, that's a draft haul right there. And then, after they pick up Ryman, okay, you think the night's over, and then all of a sudden late in the draft on day 2, they move up. They give up a 4th-round pick this year and a 3rd-round pick next year to Denver to move up to get Nick Cross, which is a little bit surprising to me, just in the sense that, quarterback continues to be, the biggest long-term need for this team, and the quarterback class next year is certainly, to what degree it's debatable, but certainly much better than this year's crop of quarterbacks. So if the Colts were to hypothetically fall in love with a guy and want to package something for a quarterback next year, not having a 3rd-round pick certainly impacts what they can do, how much they can move up. Now, there's ways to get that back, but I thought it was interesting in that sense that they moved up in the draft to get a safety. Kari Willis is going into a contract year. Julian Blackmon has been banged up. Kari Willis has also been banged up as well the last couple of years. But I think regardless of all of that, I think the fact that Nick Cross was still there, and based on their evaluation, the 3rd round was continuing to kind of trickle, and it was nearing conclusion. And all of a sudden, really high on the board is still this guy for the Colts, Nick Cross. He was still there. They had like a 2nd-round grade, 3rd-round grade on him, and he was still high on the board, even though the 3rd round was almost over. And they're like, listen, this guy's really high on our board, and he's still there. Let's go get him. So they were aggressive in that move, similar to how they were aggressive a couple of years ago to go get Jonathan Taylor. I'm not saying Nick Cross is Jonathan Taylor, but you get the idea. They they've got their evaluation, and they stick to their gut. They stick to that process. And so they nabbed him, brought him in, and they feel good about, the process in which it took to get him into the fold here with the Colts. So, no, I was really, really surprised on both ends. The fact that they got all three of those guys that were targeted to go around 42, they get Nick Cross by trading up, and a great draft for the Colts, considering they didn't have a first-round pick, and they still get really good impact and guys that can contribute right away in 2022 as rookies.
And then round 6, they're able to pull – they pull a couple of guys from Cincinnati. But Curtis Brooks – I think he's kind of it looks like could be a potential steal of the draft for the Colts.
He is. He is a guy that Luke Fickell, I talked to Luke Fickell a couple days ago, because you're right, they did draft 2 guys out of Cincinnati, Alec Pierce and then Brooks. And there were 4 players from that Cincinnati defense, 9 total from the program, but 4 guys on that Cincinnati defense that ended up getting drafted, including Sauce Gardner, who went number 4 overall, the cornerback, outstanding player. But Luke Fickell called Curtis Brooks the MVP of that defense from his nose tackle position, because of what you need from that spot to man the interior of that defense, right up the core, right down the middle of that defense is the hallmark of what they were trying to accomplish there with the Bearcats. And he is, that program was so well represented in the draft, so well represented in the Combine and the Senior Bowl. But Brooks was the snub, and Luke Fickell was really disappointed by that. He wanted more for Curtis Brooks, and it's really cool to have him get that snub, get drafted, and then continue on his professional career here, because he's a guy that's a little bit small for that position, right? He's 6'2", 290. Stereotypically those guys are 6'3", 6'4", 320, 325. So that, I think, turned a little bit of turned some teams off a little bit, but it's interesting. He's great for the Colts because now they're going to play this attack front under Gus Bradley. It's less about reading and reacting. It's more just get upfield, cause disruption, create havoc in the backfield, and that's what Curtis Brooks does. I mean, if you look at the analytics, I know those aren't the end all be all, but Pro Football Focus had Curtis Brooks as the best defensive lineman in college football last year in pass rush win rate. He had 7.5 sacks last year as a nose tackle. He had 12.5 tackles for loss. This guy was a menace. And so I do think he has a potential to be a steal for the Colts in the 6th round. But at the end of the day, he's going to have to come in, and he's going to have to earn his spot on the roster because he's got some traffic there in front of him, right? DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Chris Williams, Eric Johnson, who you talked about, was drafted out of Missouri State in the 5th round. He's another guy that's a little bit lighter for his size, but's got speed, fits exactly what the Colts want to do on defense. So those are 2 intriguing defensive tackles taken by the Colts on day 3 that have a lot of upside that fits specifically to the Colts, whereas other teams maybe didn't value those guys as much as Indianapolis did.
I know you got an eye on the Colts, obviously, Matt, but I got to ask, how the hell does Baltimore do this every single draft? Where, I mean, they just seem to get the steal, some of the biggest steals or have the best draft every year. I mean, we talked about the Colts drafting really well in the middle to the back end of the draft. Obviously, they didn't have a first-round pick. But you look at Baltimore, Kyle Hamilton, the best safety in this draft class. Tyler Linderbaum, the best center in this draft class. David Ojabo, I think, is probably a top 3 or 4 defensive end, edge rusher type of player. Obviously, with the injury, he slips to the 2nd round. Then you get Daniel Fa'alele in the 4th round. You get the best punter in Jordan Stout in the 4th round. And you add a tight end, Charlie Kohler, out of Iowa State in the 4th round. Like, it just seems every year that Baltimore plays the draft almost better than any other team in the NFL. I mean, how are they able to do this every year?
It's a really good question. I wish I had an answer for you. I mean, what they have, like 6 picks in the 4th round? I mean, we were watching the draft on day 3, and it's just like every other pick at the start of the draft on Saturday. It was like, here's the Ravens, and then 2 picks later, another pick by Baltimore. Yeah, they're a team that they seem to understand, like they're kind of in line with the Patriots of old, where they don't get too sentimental on players. They understand like how to build a team. And I think the Colts are a team like that, where, hey, at certain spots, this is what we need production-wise. And if we can go get the same production for a guy on a rookie contract, that's how you build a roster. That's how you manage the salary cap. And I think to turn it into a little bit of more of a conversation on the Colts, it's, okay, we know that we need to be a solid roster top to bottom. And I think the Colts have been, and I think the Ravens have been as well. But a team like the Ravens, a team like the Colts, they've been solid in the middle of their roster towards the end. Like, that's why those two teams are really good on special teams. That's why they have good depth. That's why a team like the Colts last year on that Christmas night when everybody got contracted with COVID, it was like, oh my gosh, who's going to play? What are we going to do? How bad are the Colts going to lose? No, they're going to actually compete, and they're going to win because the back end of their roster is so good depth-wise, really good on special teams. But I think like a team like the Ravens, team like the Colts, I think their mission this offseason and why they did such a good job in the draft for themselves was we need to get more top-end talent. You can lose guys. Like the Colts have lost 7 players this offseason in free agency that had spent at least 4 years with the Colts. And so you ask yourself, man, they're losing a lot of good players, a lot of starting experience. How are they better this year? Well, they're better because they have more top-end talent. Matt Ryan, Unique Ngakoue, Stephon Gilmore, Alec Pierce. Okay, just because you've lost more than you've put on the team doesn't mean you're necessarily worse. It's those are the difference makers for you. Your top 10 to 15 players are your difference makers. So I think the Colts got better there this year. I think the same thing with the Ravens. I mean, they drafted very well. The Linderbaum kid out of Iowa, best center in college football. Same thing with a lot of the other players they drafted, some of the top players at their positions from college football the last couple of years. So I think the Ravens and the Colts are two of the best run organizations in terms of drafting, managing the cap. But the difference was this year, man, they got better in terms of the top end talent that can win them some more ball games on Sundays.
Do you, just to follow up on that real quick, Matt, do you think it's because of the mindset? I get that. I appreciate the comparison there because I think you're right. Is there a level of Baltimore and Indianapolis both seem to me like they want to win now, but at the same time, they're also building for the future. So it's almost like we always want to be consistent. We always want to be in the playoff hunt. We're never, I shouldn't say never, but we're rarely quote unquote rebuilding. Like, do you think that's maybe why it seems like these teams pick up some good draft picks here because they're adding pieces that can contribute immediately. And then also they're like, you know what, we're going to get some guys that maybe they're not going to be here starting or they're not going to have a rotation in year one, but by year 3 or 4, I think they're going to be more productive players when some of these veteran guys might move on. Do you think that might be the case?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great observation by you. And I think the guys that sort of personify that are Danny Pinter. The Colts picked him up in the 5th round a couple years out of Ball State. And you're thinking at the time, all right, well, maybe they had a more pressing need somewhere else. But if you just draft best player available, guess what? In a couple years, when Mark Glowinski is a free agent, Chris Reed's a free agent, when those guys are hitting the market and it's time for them to get paid, you don't have to panic because you've got a guy that you've groomed for a couple years that has experience that you've been able to develop and mold that can slide in. And in one off season, you can plug him in at right guard. Same thing, I think, with Isaiah Rodgers. You drafted him a couple years in the 6th round, and you're like, okay, this guy might make the team. He might be a kick returner, and he was the first couple of years. But guess what? He can start now, right? He's a viable starter in the NFL. I think Nick Cross has the potential to be that guy because, as I said, Kari Willis is going into a contract year. And so if that doesn't work out contractually for him to come back in free agency next offseason, I'm sure you're going to have a guy that has a year under his belt and Nick Cross that you feel can play and produce and step into that role. So, no, that's a great observation by you because, again, the Colts want to continue to replenish the roster, draft best player available, and not have to panic and reach in free agency, whether that's re-sign your own and overpay a guy that just hasn't produced, hasn't lived up to it, or bring in an outside free agent, which probably if you do that and it doesn't work out and you overpay, that sends a bad message to the locker room. So the Colts are a big believer in drafting your own, developing and rewarding based on production.
You know, Matt, next week I want to talk about how NIL and the college quarterback has changed the college game. They're almost becoming pro quarterbacks. At least the top quarterbacks are going to be like a top prospect and treated as such before they make that leap to the NFL with NIL now.
Absolutely. I mean, it's basically boosters paying for play. It's come on over and like we said, it's make $800,000 a year, and I'll slap just to play by the rules. I'll slap your picture or your likeness on it on a T-shirt. You know, like a T-shirt deal plus $800,000. Man, those two things don't equate. But that's where we are right now, and it's going to be fascinating to see this generation of player that's in high school right now get recruited to college and then go to the NFL. And it'll be interesting to see how the entitlement shakes out, the egos shake out, and the agents and just this wild west and of dirty money and anything goes right now. I guess it's sort of a turnoff for me, but that's the world that we live in. And now that we've opened this box and everything's out, it's going to be really hard to put things back in.
Yeah, because how you go from being the guy that's making all that money from NIL, and you come in and it's, hey, rookie, carry my bags. I've been watching the show, the Lakers thing, be like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I want my orange juice and my newspaper every morning at 6 a.m. outside my door, kind of a thing. That's going to be hard for those NIL guys who come in and then have to humble themselves to do that. Absolutely.
I mean, there is a rookie process where, typically you always hear of, hey, rookie, just shut up and listen. Well, if you already have a couple $1 million in your pocket from NIL deals for 2-3 years in college, that's going to be hard to do for some guys that feel like they have everything kind of figured out a little bit. So it does kind of change people. I mean, normally you're talking about 22, 23-year-olds that get, life-changing money. Now guys are going to get life-changing money straight out of high school, and that's a big difference. Only a couple years, I understand that, but that is a huge difference in terms of having to earn it and go through that process in college to get yourself a pro contract. Now you're going to have pro contract money in college before you get that first contract in the NFL or the NBA or whatever. It's going to change people's personalities. It's going to change people's willingness to work. And I'm just not sure that's good for sports. That's good for our society.
Yeah, we'll certainly see as it washes out. Brother, I thank you as always. Appreciate you. Hope the family's doing well.
We're doing great. I appreciate you. Absolutely. We'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. The great Matt Taylor from the Indianapolis Colts joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you, of course, by BB's Marketplace, your local meat shop. No matter where you live, you can reach out to them. Visit bbsmarket.com. It's worth it. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Dustin Schutte, Saturday Tradition, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting
Now, DJ did say he was coming on early today, but I haven't heard from him yet, so we'll see.
Early meaning what?
Early meaning this coming segment.
There's your boy Biscuit making his...
He's making his appearance for Jennifer in case she's watching today.
Oh, she is. She's got plenty of comments in here today.
Oh, does she? Nice.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of dog is he?
Well, I don't know for sure, but somebody said a few years ago that he's a red tick. I posted a picture, and they said that looks exactly like my red tick. And I looked it up, and he does look that's what he looks like, but I don't know for sure. I didn't even know red tick was a dog.
Red tick hound.
Yep.
Jennifer says, hi, Biscuit.
I saw that, yeah.
They're good dogs.
They're yes, he's a very good dog. He's smart. Well, he's smart, but he's stubborn. Let's put it that way. He knows what he's supposed to do, but then he doesn't because he can be a pain in the ass sometimes.
I bet he has coffee.
He doesn't, but he has a peanut butter Kong.
Ross says Biscuit fighting off the Geico list
He did.
down there.
He did. That thing, I didn't even see it. It was looking directly at. It was going to make a to the apartment, and Biscuit stopped, and he went outside and started walking towards it and chased it off the ledge. It didn't jump, but it crawled, wiggled, whatever they do.
If DJ doesn't show up in the next few minutes, what I recommend doing is when he does pop in, taking a break right then and then just riding him out until his normal time is up. So
You know what I'm having right now?
it looks like a donut.
Sushi. Nope.
Sushi, of course. Ugh.
You're eating sushi at 9:20 in the morning. You got problems.
Spicy sushi.
It's not
Spicy
like a
shooty.
breakfast sushi. It's not a breakfast sushi.
Nope.
I almost
this is
called it a breakfast shooty.
California
Packed
roll.
with local craft brews, live music Friday and Saturday, and fun for the entire family. Where else can you get all you can eat, listen to great music, enjoy it all on a beautiful Southern Indiana spring night? Let's kick summer off early. For more information, go to the Courtroom Sports Grill Facebook page.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Thursday here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition with me. Jim Coyle here as always. Brought to you by our good friends down at Courtroom Sports Grill down in Bedford. Prides itself on providing their guests with fresh, innovative dishes. And they are hosting the Crawl Fest, as you heard, coming up May 13th and 14th at the Harp Commons. So make sure you go to the Courtroom Sports Grill Facebook page and get all the extra information you want. Derrick Jackson joins us now. Derrick, have you ever been to a crawl fest, a crawfish boil? You're always muted.
Hey, DJ, drop out and come back in. That usually helps for some reason.
Man, that has been happening a lot for some reason here of late, but never been to a crawfish boil.
I have not surprisingly not one in the South, but I've been to one. I'd like to go to one down here because I think it's a little bit different.
Oh, it's definitely different the further south you get. Oh, absolutely. And well, oh my God, yeah, down there it would be, especially if you go over to South Carolina or down to Louisiana.
There's actually a place not far from where I live. It's probably about a 10 to 15 minute drive, and I haven't been there because it's crowded and I don't want to wait. But they do it, I think, in the summertime, like every Tuesday or every Thursday. The line is stretched around the block, like to get in. It's crazy. So I haven't tried it yet, but I need to get out there and do that.
Derrick Jackson joining us now. How's it going, man?
Good. Can you guys hear me now?
Absolutely.
Good. Hey, Dustin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Derrick. I was going to say that you need to teach me here on my beard game here. Mine's all pat. You got a good one going there. Mine's all patchy and trying to get it to grow in.
I don't even hardly recognize him, man. He looks so different with that beard going.
I know, man. You know what? I'm just letting it grow. Just get it trimmed up every now and then. You really have to get to a point, Dustin, where you just don't shave. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
Hey, I'm at home. I'm retired, man. So I'm living life. I'm enjoying what I'm seeing coming from this Indian huge. You guys were talking about a crawfish, and I was telling you, Jim, before I left a little bit ago, I recently started learning. I just learned how to eat crawfish, to be honest, man. I didn't know. Some people eat the head, some people don't. Dustin, help me out here, man.
Well, I don't know that I did it right because I haven't been to one down here in the South. So, it's all still very foreign to me. It's been a long time ago. I'll check it out and I'll get back with you the next time I go to a crawfish boil.
Good, man. Good. I know for what I understand, it is good though, Jim. Very good.
That's a good time. That's all that matters. What's up with you? What's happening? What's new?
Nothing, man. I'm sitting here very pleased with the draft. Just so you know, Devin he signed with Tampa Bay as an undrafted free agent with Tampa Bay. Jim, he was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to get a couple more guys on here in a couple of weeks. And then we had another guy, Zaquandre Wright from North Fort Myers High School, which is my alma mater, which is Deion Sanders' alma mater. Richard Fain, Jabari Kersey. Anyway, he went to Miami as an undrafted free agent. He's a running back in South Carolina. Of course, you do know Destiny Henderson. Dustin, she's from here in Fort Myers. She's up there at the Indiana Fever. She's doing very well up there. And just looking at this quarterback room, I really believe that guy from Missouri, is it Baselak? What's his name? Baselak. Yeah, I really think he's going to be the starter. They've got Jack Tollers there, and they've got they've got Donovan McCulley, but we'll see, man. Ty Freifogel, I don't know if he got an undrafted free agent contract, but I do know that Peyton Hendershot, I think he went to the Cowboys. Is that correct?
Yeah, a lot of guys signing undrafted free agent contracts. Several. I'll have to pull it up to get the entire list, but yeah, somebody went to the Packers. There were several of them that signed out. So we'll see if they can hold on. It's a hard thing for an undrafted free agent to make a roster. Dustin, what's the percentage you think of undrafted free agents that make a roster?
I would say 1%, man. If you ask me, those guys have to have, for an undrafted free agent to make a roster, they have to be multi-talented. And when I say that, and I'm not just saying Devin because he's here. Devin is a receiver, but he's also a very dangerous return man on special teams. Yeah. So that gives him another avenue, as opposed to me just coming in there being a receiver and that's it. Unless I can, like when I came to IU, my first year, I didn't play defense. I got in a few games, but my forte was special teams. I mean, I had to make the kickoff team. The only way we would travel is if you make special teams. And if you mess that up, you're just not going to play. So I just really think that these guys, if he come in there, he's got good speed and the sub 4.4, little guy. But if he can prove that he's a dangerous return man, I think that he'll stick on. I think Peyton will stick on. I really do. I think Peyton has a great shot. He had a great season. Michael McFadden, it's going to be a long shot for him. But hey, man, I'm always pulling for the guy from Indiana, man.
Derrick, I want to ask you this because I think hopefully these leagues stick on. But to me, the benefit that a guy like Devin has, some of these other guys, that if they don't make a roster in their first year, they can go to the USFL. They can go maybe to the XFL. They can continue to play and then prove themselves on the semi-professional level. Whereas, just a few years ago, that was something that they really didn't have the option of. You got to go to, be on a practice squad. You got to go to fall or summer camp or whatever the case might be to try to prove yourself. Now these guys can potentially, if they don't quite work out that first year, they have a chance to go get some professional training, play in a league, the USFL, XFL, and I'm really hoping those leagues stick on because I love the fact that now these professional athletes have multiple avenues to go down if it doesn't work out right away in the NFL.
Yeah, I think that with that being said, guys like Devin, he has a future in football, whether it's NFL, USFL, Canadian Football League. He has a future, and obviously speed helps. When you said that, we had a guy last year, again from Dunbar High School here in Fort Myers, Austin Watkins, he's from University of Alabama, Birmingham, and he was signed as an undrafted free agent with San Francisco. Well, he didn't make that. He sat out a year because he took an injury settlement. Now Tampa Bay just signed him to a 3-year contract, little over a couple $1 million. So, there are multiple avenues, man, when you have multiple talent. But when your talent is just, you said it, Devin. I must say, you said it, Dustin. I mean, hey, man, there are other developmental leagues that are out there right now.
NIL, man. I keep talking about it, but it is crazy how it changes every aspect of every single little thing. What have you seen from you're down in Florida? What's been the talk of it down there? The impact? We see teams like Miami, Florida State, and Florida who have used to dominate college football. And from a state that produces a ton of talent, they don't anymore. And NIL is a tool, I think, that Florida is a team that would benefit greatly from it for certain. I don't know about Florida State because that's the reason that Jimbo Fisher left, is because they were not investing in facilities, to my knowledge. So we'll see. But do you see the benefit? What's going on down there with it?
Well, I can tell you what, Miami, not to be funny, but Miami's been doing NIL for years. So for the Hurricanes, now that it's legal, I mean, this should serve as a great benefit. And I think head coach Mario Cristobal is really doing a good job with bringing in, and I keep preaching this, and I say this to Coach Allen every time. And Coach, if you're listening, this guy is, and I'm not saying that it's going to, make a complete turnaround, but Coach Cristobal is bringing in other players, past players, and he's bringing in NFL talent. They've got the one alumni that I think he offered 10 or 12 players NIL deals. I mean, he's an alumni. The guy got the money to do that. He's offering these guys $1 million each. I mean, and I'm 18 years old. I'm from the hood. I don't have a car. I come from a single parent home. I'm living in a wooden house. What do you think? Where do you think I'm going? You tell me. In Indiana, I'm going. Am I going to the University of Miami? Where am I going?
Follow the money, baby. Follow the money.
That's all I'm saying, man. And my hats off. I know Coach Allen is trying to do it. Listen, I'm a proponent of doing things the right way. But guess what? NIL nowadays is legal. It's nothing under the table. We've got to get some guys, man, that we can offer some NIL deals to. We've got this. Listen, if I was a rich alumni, listen, man, hey, man, listen, $2 million, man. I need you in Indiana. Here's what we're gonna do. Here's where you're gonna fit in. If it's legal, what's the problem? I don't see what the problem is.
Do you think, Derrick, that this has been a conversation now for weeks, and probably you could date it back, that when this kind of started, it would separate the haves and have-nots. Do you see that being the case? Because I look at Indiana basketball is not going to be a problem, but Indiana football, they've had trouble. They've had trouble filling Memorial Stadium. So are they going to be able to keep pace? They've been close to beating teams like Ohio State. They beat Michigan. They beat Penn State. But I'm afraid that in this new era of college football, and depending on how it goes, if there's going to be any regulations, is that gap going to just continue to widen?
I think so, man. If we don't, I look at when I was there playing under Coach Mallory, what he had to do to get us in line with these programs that were being successful on the field. So now Coach Allen's task is to do the same thing. And I can tell you that close to beating teams, and it's just part of the business. Unfortunately, close to beating someone this year is not going to be good enough. We're going to have to win. We're going to have to win this year. We're going to have to win. Get out. My dog DJ, get out. My dog DJ, we're going to have to win this year. And these NIL deals, we're going to have to get some guys on some NIL deals, or we're going to lose that. We're not going to be able to close the gap.
Yeah, that's a concern. I think that Indiana is going to fall by the wayside on the football side of things, and I think it's going to benefit them greatly on basketball. Unfortunately, but it's a dog-friendly show, so all dogs are welcome.
This guy.
What kind of dog you got there?
He's a pit bull. Say hi, DJ. Say hi, DJ.
You got your hand in the way. You got your hand in the way. There you go. Yeah, he's a rascal.
Yeah, he's a little rapper, Yeah, he's a rapper, man.
Yeah, I think that Indiana definitely there's going to be separation here, and unless a bunch of the feeling for basketball and football is just not the same. People want to see Indiana basketball succeed. They want that desperately. They would like for football to succeed. They would love for football to succeed. Well, it does not drive people crazy at night that it's not good. They wish that it was.
But
Well, we got
basketball's good. All else is good for Indiana fans.
Yeah, well, the fans were teased about 2 years ago when we had that season during COVID. You know what I'm saying? And now, unfortunately, it's I guess it's proving some people right that, hey, man, COVID is what happened. That was a fluke. I don't think it was a fluke. I think we are talent. We have a lot of talent. I think we need to get more talent in our program. And I think once we're able to get that talent and we're able to utilize NIL to leverage that, then we're going to be able to compete with some of the bigger programs. But like Dustin was saying, that gap is going to widen. Basketball is not going to be a problem. It's not going to be a problem at all. But that gap is going to widen if we do not use NIL to not just utilize NIL. I mean, even with transfer portal, I mean, Coach Deion Sanders at head coach Jackson State said it best. I mean, NIL is becoming free agency now, man.
I think, to me, Derrick, one of the things about Indiana's last season, I agree with you. I don't necessarily think the 2020 season was a fluke. And you look back at 2019 when they won 8 games and they had a chance to win even more and get the monkey off their back in terms of winning that bowl game. I just think that mindset, I feel like the mentality was they got praised a lot more than what a lot of Indiana football is used to getting praised by the national media. They were a top 10, top 15 team heading into the season. And so to me, it was more about the mentality of going from the hunter where nobody expects anything from us to all of a sudden we're supposed to be number 2 in the Big Ten East, challenging Ohio State for the Big Ten championship game. And I think after they lost, after they had that abysmal first half against Iowa, I just think they were trying to play catch up the rest of the season. That, to me, that was a bigger thing than it being necessarily a fluke.
Right. It wasn't necessarily a fluke. Like I said before, I don't believe that either. I'm just some of the people that, said it. Okay, it makes them feel good right about now. But listen, man, we've got the talent. We've got the recruiting capability. I believe we have the recruiting budget. It's just that NIL is going to prove it's going to shake up a lot of programs this year. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, look, man, like I said, even without NIL, I mean, coaches, you got a coach, and I hate to keep alluding to the fact, but you get a coach like Deion Sanders at a program. I mean, kids are coming to his program. 4 and 5 stars are coming to his program, man. He doesn't need to use NIL. He don't need to use NIL. He just say, hey, I'm Deion Sanders, come to my program, and we can probably get you somewhere in, get a shot in the NFL if you work hard enough for it, you want it bad enough.
Yeah, I think that'll last. That's only going to last so long, though. DJ, I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, a great weekend, man. And as always, we appreciate you and look forward to having you on.
Okay, buddy. I'll see you guys next week, man. And Dustin, man, take care. Love you guys, man.
You too.
All right. We got to take a break here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Courtroom down in Bedford, of course, who are going to be bringing you the next Crawl Fest coming up May 13th and 14th at the Harp Commons in downtown Bedford, headlined by Hoosier native Clayton Anderson. Just go to their Facebook page, Courtroom Sports Grill. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
Dustin, Indiana wasn't the only school to not have spring. It was Wisconsin, Iowa, Northwestern too, right? They didn't have spring games.
Yeah, Iowa didn't have games. Iowa wasn't broadcast. Wisconsin wasn't broadcast. Indiana and North. Yeah, those were the 4. And then Michigan State was broadcast, but that wasn't a spring game. That was 8 plays of a scrimmage, and that was about it. The rest was individual drills. So,
I think fans underreact to football the same way they overreact to basketball. Indiana fans.
At Indiana.
What
do you mean?
Maybe underreact wasn't the best word, but I guess
I'm freezing.
So the expectations for Indiana basketball are always way too ridiculous, and then vice versa for football. Discluding last season because things were going well.
Dude, I'm saying they're going to have to hit the portal hard. They have no pass.
They have to go the Michigan State route. Like what Mel Tucker's done, they have to turn into that. Especially if this year doesn't if significant changes aren't seen.
I mean, we can talk about this live. I don't care. I mean, I don't know how they're going to win football games. Again, they have their receiver room is not good.
I think
offensive
we
line
missed a lot of
is not
DJ
good.
Matthews last year from being injured. I genuinely think he's going to be a good asset in the receiving.
Well,
will he be a difference maker? I don't know, but I think he'll be good. I don't know how good Connor Bazelak's going to be. I mean, that's obviously the biggest question mark. I mean, maybe even more so than that, the offensive line.
I think Connor Bazelak's an improvement. Offensive line question marks because that's never really been a strength. Running back Sean Shivers, David Ellis is healthy, so maybe you get some help there. But I just don't see any outside of Matthews. Who else are you going to throw the ball to? Javon Swinton, I guess.
Swinton's decent. We brought in Emory Simmons from North Carolina. That's a transfer portal guy. He was actually a recruit that Indiana was going after when he was in high school. That went to North Carolina. I shouldn't say that these guys aren't good. There's no evidence that they'll make that next step, I guess. Wow, it's already 9:40. I kind of like the mystery of the no spring game.
Oh.
I mean, I know it's stupid, but at the same time, I think one, it was a good move for Indiana. I mean, they kind of had to do it because if they did do it, there wouldn't have been anything positive to say, even if there were aspects of it that looked good, in my opinion. People would have just found something to bitch about.
I don't think it matters, to be honest.
Today, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I don't even know what that kind of music is as Dustin Schutte dances in the wind. From Dustin Schutte with Saturday Tradition alongside me. Jim Coyle.
Sounds like some sort of island music.
Yeah.
In honor of Dustin's vacation.
There you go. Where are you going on vacation, by the way?
Jekyll Island. So I will be on an island.
There you go. Man, all you do is vacation. Every time I turn around, you're going on a vacation.
That's all I do. Yeah.
I'm just saying, it's quite a bit.
Vacation and traveling are two different things. Let me just say that. I haven't had a vacation in probably 2 years at least. I know it's been longer for you, so I don't want to hear it. But I did travel and play golf and have days off in Florida during the wintertime. So I'm not going to say I haven't enjoyed the aspect of working from home. But in terms of an actual vacation, no responsibility, no work involved. This will be the first one in a while.
John's a gas griddle man for burgers.
There you go.
IU football, man. I am afraid, and I hate to say this because I'm not trying to be negative, but I think it's over for Indiana football.
Over,
and not just Indiana. I mean, the chance, the thought.
Oh, yeah.
That they're going to be able to compete with Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan State going forward. Because of the difference already in those programs of history, of boosters, of ability to make money. You have to have money to spend money. No one's going to give a bunch of NIL money to Indiana football players unless you have someone like a billionaire that decides he wants to turn the Indiana football program around.
Which could happen.
It could happen. I don't see that happening, but that's what it will take because, let's face it, Ohio State and Penn State and Michigan State, they're definitely going to have the best talent now and the best coaching, and they're going to have the most money, and it's definitely going to separate like it never has before.
Here's the thing that I didn't point this out when Derrick was on, and maybe I should have, but some of the things I disagree with what he said in terms of NIL. Like NIL like if you have somebody that's going to pay somebody $2 million to go to your school, that's not NIL. That is pay for play. I mean, that's what that is. And what the NCAA and some of these committees are trying to do is get that portion of it out of the NIL. So,
well, it's not in there now legally. You can't pay them to go to your school. You have to set it up in a manner of which to fulfill their contract that they can't be anywhere else.
But they don't have the guidelines in place to monitor it, to police it. So I think what the goal is to,
if they don't show up, if you're giving a guy $2 million, you're going to police it. You're going to police it yourself. So that's all that matters. They still have to fulfill the obligations of that contract to get paid.
Here's the other part too. I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I think that there is some hope at the end of the tunnel for programs like Indiana, because I think, oh God, I'm an island boy. Yeah. I think what's going to happen at the end in a few years is some of these boosters, they're going to get burned by these business decisions. Like you're paying some of these kids $1 million.
These aren't business decisions. That's what you all got to figure. That's what people have to understand.
It is a business decision. It's under the guise of a business. Yes, it is.
They don't care. They don't care. They're giving that guy from Miami. He has basically said, here's $10 million that I'm giving away. I don't expect to get anything back from it other than helping Miami. He's not looking for anything in return. His return on investment is benefiting Miami. That's all.
But what happens? Okay, but what happens if Miami is 500 for 4 straight years? Do you think that money's going to continue to flow in?
No.
Okay, that's my point. So if there's success, there's going to be programs that are successful. There's going to be programs that aren't doing this. They're going to way overpay, and what's going to happen, in my opinion, is they're going to wash their hands of it. They're going to say, "I'm not doing this anymore," because you can't find a coach that's going to win. You can't find the players you can't. That's what to me is going to happen.
Don't you think that'll take at least 5 years for that to cycle through? Really?
Correct. It won't happen quickly. It's going to be the long term, and you're always going to be. Miami might be a bad example because Miami's, like Derrick said, they've always been doing NIL. There's always been money under the table.
But a lot of schools have done that.
Right. I'm just saying some of these other, when you see a Pitt receiver or the top receiver in college football leave Pitt to go get reportedly go get X amount of dollars to play at USC or Texas or wherever he might play. I think some of that is going to be, eventually some of that's going to be derailed, because I think that these NIL opportunities are going to be set up in a way that it's going to be make more business sense to stay with the program you're at. Like, I think that's what ultimately is going to be the goal, is to get this to a point where there's at least some sort of level playing field, at least among the Power Five. The Group of Five they're not going to be anywhere close.
Well, they don't have to worry about it. Right now, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and Pac-12 Commissioner George Klavikoff are planning to meet with United States senators in D.C. on today to ask for legislative help surrounding name, image, likeness policies. They've been invited to meetings with several senators today to discuss these issues. NCAA President Muppet Mark Emmert and other leaders, if you can call them that, in college athletics, have been asking for federal lawmakers to step in and regulate NIL policies because, we screwed it up. We screwed it up for 12 years. So won't you come in and fix our mess? Yeah, they're begging them to come in and fix their mess that they caused.
Right.
Gee whiz. I hate hearing his name. Why is he still even there? Well, just go away now. He should just go away. He does nothing but hurt them. Every time you show his face, it's like he may have the most punchable face in the history of punchable faces. Do you not want to just punch his face every time you see it? No matter what you think about it. Seriously, does he not have the most punchable face? My gosh. You're not weighing in on that?
No, I'm not going to weigh in on
that. I'm not saying I want to punch him. I'm just saying he has a punchable face. When you see that face and you know what's behind it and what all he's done and what he's made, the money he's made and how he's done it, it's just like, are you kidding me?
I mean, that part I will agree with. I mean, again, I go back to all this stuff is so avoidable. This tidal wave of change in the NCAA was so avoidable. If you would have just kept up with the times, again, if you go back to what was the problem with kids getting a little bit of, basically, in my opinion, it's going to be pizza money with the game that is, the NCAA football game. If you would have just made some sort of agreement with EA Sports and distributed that money across college football to some deal, like those kids, there's not enough sales for those kids to make like $1 million off that game, but they probably would have made $50 to $100 or something. If you would have allowed them to have jersey sales, if you would have allowed them to, we talked about this a few years ago when Michael Penix had that reach into the end zone. If he could have trademarked that image and given it over to like Home Field or another athletic company and been like, you know what, let's do a 50-50 deal. You can have this image of me reaching for the pylon, and for 50%, you make the shirt, I get 50%, you get 50%. To me, there's nothing wrong with that. That is name, image, and likeness. Saying, hey, why don't you come up to Indiana? We'll get you $2 million. That's not name, image, and likeness. That's pay for play.
And that's exactly where they are right now. We'll get back to that later on. But coming up next, Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers joins us, as always. Looking forward to it. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar, located right next door to Southern Stone. Feast Market and Cellar offers a great selection of wines. They have a sommelier on staff. They take their pairing very seriously, also providing a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, and pastries, all mouth-watering. Back with more. Chris Denari joins us next after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington.
Hey,
there's the man.
The commercials are back. I can hear them.
See? It makes a difference.
No, I feel like I've been out for a lot of Thursdays.
Yeah, Ben.
A lot.
So I was out last Thursday for a dentist appointment. The previous, I was here, but you weren't here, Dustin. And the one after,
that's
before
right.
that, I was here, or you were here and I wasn't. I don't remember why I wasn't. But
Dustin was playing golf somewhere.
That's
See?
right. He was on sabbatical.
See? Everybody thinks
boy.
that.
Just fueling the fire today. Oh, boy.
Dustin, I was going to play golf today, but I'm not sure it's going to happen. It's 100% chance of rain.
Yeah, ask Dustin where he's going next week.
Where are you going, Dustin?
Jekyll Island, Georgia.
Oh.
I'll be
for another week of doing nothing.
Now, I can't remember. Where are you down there? Savannah?
No, I'm in Kennesaw, so I'm about 30 miles west of Atlanta.
Okay.
It's probably not 30 miles, but it's a 30-minute drive because of the traffic.
Okay.
Home of the Owls.
I go up to the I go up to the Blue Ridge Mountains quite a bit, not North Carolina, but up to Blue Ridge and LJ and those places. So
Yeah. Evan was just he just had his bachelor week or whatever they call it now. He was at the Gulf Shores.
Okay.
They were down there. Jason Spindler, do you remember play basketball at Manchester?
Yes, I do remember. I don't remember him personally, but I remember that name, yes.
Yeah, it was a convergence of a couple of Evan's Manchester friends, his Myrtle Beach group, and then a lot of guys here from Indianapolis. My other two sons went down. So
Jason he's a big, tall guy, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I played mud volleyball against him because of that May Day weekend that they do at Manchester where they bring out the fire hose and spray the pit full of mud. And I mean, he slammed a volleyball directly in my face. I've never felt a pain quite like that before. I'm at the net, and I mean, he's like 6'6" or what. He might even be taller than that. I don't remember how tall he is, but I had 0% chance of blocking
it.
That.
Here we go.
HRVs, and pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this Thursday. Hope you're enjoying it. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition along the way as always as well. Brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore, and her 2 decades of experience could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Joined now by Chris Denari, the voice of the Pacers. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Just got back from a little coffee run with my dog Bailey. She enjoys the pup cups, that whipped cream in a cup. So as you can tell, not much going on right now, right? Was hoping to play a little golf today, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. It looks like we're going to have about 100% chance of rain around 1 o'clock. So.
Yeah, it's not looking good out there. It's kind of chilly as well, man. The temperature's just I've been talking about this wonky spring. It has been more of a roller coaster than I can recall. Up and down, not very many good days. If it's not raining, it's cloudy and chilly. It's just been weird.
Yeah, I think next week, my wife told me it's supposed to be in the 80s much of the week. In fact, next Tuesday, it's supposed to be 90, which, And that will coincide with really the opening of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. That's sort of the next thing on my agenda. Really a couple of things. We've got the Pacers looking forward to the lottery in a couple of Tuesdays. And then I'll be in turn 4 again at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Indianapolis 500. So next week, the track will open because they have the road course event first. Then the following weekend will be qualifications for the 500. And then Memorial Day weekend will be the 500 again. So I'm looking forward to that. I step in with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network on a couple of occasions during the summer. I'll also be with them during the NASCAR weekend in late July, August. So it's a lot of fun. I've done it for over 20 years now. And it's always a highlight for me to be able to do that.
Now, when you're doing that, do you have your own spotters?
I do have a spotter now. Here's what's interesting. The last few years, because of COVID, we were not allowed to bring additional people, even though we were outside. I mean, it was just, because we gather in an indoor area. But yeah, I will have a spotter with me. And that spotter is essential because when I'm I'm on the outside of turn 4. And so as I see the cars exit 3 through the short chute through 4, I'm usually following the leaders. So, for those of you watching on Facebook or whatever, my eyes are going to pan this way. Well, sometimes there's a lot of activity in the back of the field, and that's where the spotter can be essential from the standpoint that they elbow you. I mean, sometimes they just hit you. So they
see somebody coming that's getting ready to make a pass, especially they're making a run that you can't see coming.
I've told people, guys, that the IMS radio network is as much like TV as anything because there are so many people involved. You have 3 people on air in the booth. You've got 3 pit reporters, and then you have 4 turn people. That's 10 people that have the ability to be on the air. And there are some producers behind the scenes with the garages, with the pits, and with the turns. And so they're also helpful in your ear. Something in 4, short shoot, north side, whatever. So they can help you because they're in the media center watching all the monitors, and I can only see what I can see.
If you want to truly enjoy a radio broadcast, I don't think that you can enjoy one better than listening to a properly and one that's done very well. A road course race. I don't care if it's NASCAR or IndyCar. It doesn't matter, but it's the choreography. I remember though my first introduction was listening to the MRN sometimes, and it was probably mostly a NASCAR race, but it didn't matter. Because there's so many corners of those road courses, and they want the action and the play-by-play to go bam, 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 bam. They're coming from turn 2, and whether it's Kinakanamaki, and then boom, they go to turn 3, and he's right into the action, and it's the same thing, and they don't miss anything. And it was like this choreographed thing that just didn't stop. And I'm like, wow, it's just so amazing because it's like every guy you'd go to has got something more exciting and to jack the excitement up.
Well, what I've told people is it's really about trust. You have to trust the other broadcasters that are with you. And this is one of those instances where I think it's as important to listen as it is to talk. Because again, if I'm doing play-by-play and, of a football game or a basketball game or a baseball game, I have everything right in front of me as the play-by-play announcer. But when I'm in turn 4, I'm only a small part of the race because that's all I can see. During the road course race for the Indy cars and the NASCARs later this summer, I'll be up in turn 2, so I'll see them, come along the backstretch, if you will, of the road course. So our job is to be very descriptive, but to do that, you have to listen to the person or persons in front of you so that you know what's happening. So I find it a challenge each and every year. I've said it. I think the one thing you have to do in any job, but especially in broadcasting, I believe, is you have to step out of your comfort zone to continue to improve and to continue to get better. And even though I'm 61 years old and much closer to the end of my career than the start of my career, I'm always striving to get better. And the way you get better, I think, is to step out of your comfort zone. And that's what I try to do.
Well, let me ask you this, Chris, because you've been doing it for a while now. What was it like doing the Indy 500 for the very first time?
Oh, man.
I mean, I have to know how much pressure, what were the butterflies like?
Yeah.
I remember doing I did play-by-play for high school for a very short period of time for a webcast. And I remember my very first time going on air. I mean, I felt sick to my stomach because it's such a unique challenge. What was that first time like?
That first time, I had spent time in the pits, but that's nothing like being in turn 4, and especially if the race is coming down to the end. I've always said in a 200 lap Indianapolis 500, you're going to make a mistake here and there, right? We're not perfect, but you better not make a mistake on lap 199 or 200. You better hit that one out of the park. And I've been very fortunate to be able to be a part of that and to do that. But I was nervous. There's no question. I'll be nervous this year because how many people across the country are listening. And especially in Indianapolis, where the race is not shown, it's blacked out. I can't tell you how many people during the course of the year, as much as they know me as the voice of the Pacers on TV, they'll say, hey, are you going to be in turn 4 again at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway? Because so many people get together with family and friends on that Sunday on their back patio, on their porch, wherever they are, out on the lake, on a boat, and they're listening to the race. I mean, that's just something that people do. So I know how important it is to be at the top of your game. And there's no question I'll have butterflies. And that first time, there's a part of you that when you're up there, you're thinking, what have I done? Because you're going, man, I don't know if I'm up to this task. But it's a real honor to be a part of that. And so glad that they asked me to do it some 20 plus years ago.
So then that means you were on the call. I don't know if you were in turn 4, but in 2011 for J.R. Hildebrand's
Oh, yeah,
crash.
I had the call. I mean,
oh, my God.
Yeah.
I've got to hear about that. This guy's leading the Indianapolis 500, man, and he crashes in turn 4 on the final lap.
Yeah.
Nothing to be, oh, my God. What was that like?
I'm going to say that was definitely one of my iconic calls. I'd say there were 2 that really are out there that people have told me that they remember. And that would be in 2006 when Marco Andretti as a teenager was leading on the final lap. And I said, I didn't say he's going to win, but I said, can a teenager win in Indianapolis? And so, but also Hornish was right behind him coming out of turn 4, and then Hornish passed him at the checkered flag. The J.R. Hildebrand thing was amazing from the standpoint that all he had to do was make one more turn. The problem was he was in a lot of traffic, and he got up in the marbles a little bit, and all of a sudden he hits the wall, and then it's Dan Weldon that comes out of the smoke and makes his way to the finish line. But those, to me, are two of the calls that I'll always remember, just because who you thought was going to win when they exited or came into turn 4 was not who won on the final lap of the race.
Well, I think if you look back on any iconic sports calls, it's always the surprise and the reaction and elevation and the call of that surprise by whomever is making it that makes it iconic, like you just talked about. The last thing you expected for J.R. Hildebrand was going to the wall on turn 4 on the final lap. And man, I can only imagine what that does to the body, how exhilarating it is. How it courses through you at that time. It's got to be amazing.
And that's why you can't, I've been asked by people, and I've been asked about this at the end of a basketball game, that's close, that comes down to the wire, 3-point shot or whatever, or the end of a race. Do you script what you say at the end? You can't. You can't script it because you don't know what's going to happen. You're going to get in trouble if you try to script something. And so hopefully the years that I've done this, it lends itself to me being able to say what I need to say at the end of a race, not knowing what's going to happen. So no, I don't even think of it. There might be something rolling in your head if they get to a certain point, but there's no way you could ever script anything like that because you don't know what's going to happen.
And then I was going to ask that question. That's funny that you brought that up. I was going to ask that question because I always think like I'm not saying it's scripted, but when you have such veteran, it's so crazy to me how they can come up with such things off the top of their head.
Yeah.
Like the other night, Ian Eagle, with the call when John Morant had that incredible dunk and he called it the jawbreaker. I mean, just stuff like it's so the creativity and we hear it on your broadcast, Chris, all the time. But I did have that question of, is there a certain scenario where you have something written down or in your head or anything like that? But I mean, obviously you've answered that.
Yeah, but I do think, Dustin, what I guess I would say is you might make a note as far as, making sure you double check about, Marco Andretti's a teenager. Remind myself that he is 19 years old, right? Or make a note that somebody's a 3-time winner or a 4-time winner. I mean, for instance, last year with Elio Castroneves joining the club of people who have won 4 times at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So yes, you do have that element from the standpoint to make sure you have your facts right. So from that standpoint, you are prepared, but I sort of let it come out the way I think it should come out naturally.
And Dustin, I think with those guys that are doing games, they have little phrases that they know that they've got, that they keep in their pocket, just like that, that they're going to bust out. But in a situation like this, where it's live and in your face, it's just a different deal. It's not at all. But John, I've got John up here. Let's listen to a little bit of Take You Back in Time.
Here he goes, the final lap. Across the line, J.R. Hildebrand will see the white flag. Jerry Baker, final lap. Can a rookie win it? His best finish of the year, 10th. That's going to improve dramatically, Jake, as he comes to turn 2.
He's hoping that wind can push him through. J.R. Hildebrand trying to conserve fuel, trying to do the unthinkable. Win his first Indianapolis 500. He's already in 3.
J.R. Hildebrand with a huge strong of fans on their feet, fist pumping, caps waving. He comes out of turn number 3. Here he comes, the National Guard machine with J.R. Hildebrand down along the white line. He is sputtering slow, and he hits the wall. He hits the wall coming out of 4. Will he have enough to cross the yard of bricks? Here comes J.R. Hildebrand. He will cross in front of the flag stand with the checkered flag waving, the right side of the car destroyed. He finishes the race with the damaged race car. Who will win? Who is the winner of the Indiana? It is Weldon. Dan Weldon has won the race as Weldon gets past J.R. Hildebrand as Hildebrand hits
That's
the
good enough, John. Wow, they didn't even know who won the race. It was that brought such shock that everybody's like, "Oh, who won?"
Well, and that's the thing is when in turn 4, the one thing that you have to do, and that's what I do, I have to make sure I get out because I have to allow the voice of the 500 to call the end of the race. So that's why after he hits the wall, boom, 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 I just stop because I know Mike King is waiting and he's the one that gets the call. And the problem is as Hildebrand's coming through, Weldon he wasn't even behind. He wasn't right behind Hildebrand. There was so much traffic and so many cars involved that nobody really knew at that point. And I think Master Control was very slow on the computer because at that point, Mike King's probably looking at the computer going, okay, who won? And they didn't know.
That was crazy. And then unfortunately, of course, that same year, Dan Weldon passes away later on that season.
You know what was the interesting thing about that? I think it was that night in Charlotte. Somebody could check that. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was riding in the National Card machine, and he crashed as well with the lead. It was just so ironic that the two cars that were the National Guard machines both had a chance to win that night and both lost.
Wow. Crazy. Dustin, you had something you were going to say?
Well, I was just going to say, just listening to that, recapping, and this is a decade ago. That gave me goosebumps. I mean, I have to imagine that's why you do this, Chris. Like, I mean, obviously you love sports, but those moments in time, to me, those are so rewarding to have those opportunities. I mean, it's again, a decade later, and I still get goosebumps listening to it.
Yeah, I made the decision, many years ago, I started doing play-by-play at Wabash College. I played basketball, and so I couldn't do basketball, but I did the football. And I always wanted to be a sports anchor. And so that's what I started out to do. But when I got let go being a sports anchor here in Indianapolis, when the station was sold and they did away with news, I went to the University of Indianapolis as their sports information director, and they allowed me to do play-by-play. And that's when I realized, man, I want to do play-by-play. I want to be at the game. I want to be calling the game. I want to be live. And I want to be the person responsible, especially when I did so many things on radio, for you, the listener, to listen to it. So, yeah, it's been a dream, and I've just been very fortunate to be able to do that over the years.
And the Indy 500 is something that is so many families take pride in going year after year. And it doesn't, not just Indiana people, man. They come from all over.
Oh, no question about that. And, last year seeing all the fans in the stands and think about it. 2 years ago, I did the race with nobody sitting in front of me. I mean, it was just me out in turn 4. And so last year to see the fans back and to see the fans back this year, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Sounds great, brother. Appreciate you so much. It was a fun time going back in time a little bit today, but we'll be back there in a few weeks. Looking forward to it.
Okay. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers and the Indianapolis 500 Motor Speedway call. Got plenty more coming up here, brought to you by our good friends at RE/MAX Realty. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. We're back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting
That was a great call. I love listening. I mean, listening to calls on race, I'm telling you, it's motorsports. It's great how they go from boom to boom to boom.
It's just so fast. It seems so hard.
That's why I asked that question. What was it like his first time? Because I would puke. Because you have to be so. I don't know that I could. I mean, I'm obviously not a professional play-by-play, but I don't think I could call it if my life depended on it.
Man, golly.
And the thing is, I know they get caution flags, but at the same time, there are no stops. Like football, there's pauses. Baseball, basketball. Everything else, there's pauses. That's nonstop.
Really, soccer, there's not really, unless halftime, but.
Well,
but
right.
The thing is, when it's going,
not,
it's going literally at 190 miles an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, soccer sometimes they mess around, at midfield. Like there's stuff that you don't have to call, but like
That's
the Indy
true.
500, there's always something you're gonna, whether it's like Chris said, at the leaderboard or at the leader, or whether there's movement in the back of the pack or at wreck. You get the cautions, but when they're going full speed ahead, I mean, whew.
I feel like today's show has flown by. We only have 15 minutes left.
I know we say that every day now, almost, except for Wednesday.
Wednesday is
when you're by yourself.
Weird.
Yeah.
Wednesday is the only day without. Well, actually, technically Friday you don't have a co-host either.
Well,
normally, or not normally, but sometimes. But you have so many guests on Friday, it doesn't even really matter.
And it's the end of the week.
And usually Alex stays for 2 segments. Usually when we have Jeffrey, he stays for 2 segments. So that's 4 segments with just 2 people. And then we also have Zach for 1 segment.
Zach?
Zach
Osterman. Oh, damn it. I meant to talk about this with Chris, but we ran out of time. The Pacers owners are planning a $250 million downtown project.
Well, there you go. You got a topic for next week.
Yep. And you can also ask him about the Bally Sports stuff next week, too.
Oh, yeah, that was.
The Simon Group proposes a 16-story, 225-room hotel with a walkover connecting to Gamebridge Fieldhouse.
10 seconds.
So they'll have that thing rented out every game to the teams.
On a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Cabello Restaurant on the Square in Bloomington. Fine Italian fare, located right here in the heart of the Midwest. The Pacers owner group are planning a $250 million development plan downtown in Indianapolis. That surrounds, of course, Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Part of that is a 225-room hotel? Yeah, a 16-story 225-room hotel with a walkover connecting to Gamebridge Fieldhouse, Dustin, which would be great. They could fill that thing a lot with the opposing teams from every game. So they'll have that thing locked down. They're also planning a $20 million event center on Delaware Street, which is the same street that Gamebridge is on. So a lot of development going on up there next to the stadium.
Let me tell you, it's dangerous for my health and for everybody around me if there's a hotel I can get into walking distance from all the establishments right there across from Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Especially if I'm ever up for Pacers when they're back in the playoffs. I mean, I love being downtown Indianapolis in May when the Pacers are competitive in the playoffs. One of my favorite things is to, after the game, go out. I mean, it's a blast. And now, I mean, I know there's hotels around there anyway, but I mean, right across the street.
Well, connected. I think this is on. I know exactly where I think that this is. It's right north of the stadium. If that's where I remember that. I think that's where that was torn down when we were there for the Big Ten basketball tournament.
I think they're going to have like an outdoor basketball court, I believe, right? Or something of that nature.
Everything. I don't know everything that they have included for it, but a Maryland Street Plaza, public plaza that's under construction. I don't know what all
is included in that. There's just a lot of stuff going on up there. They're just doing a lot of stuff with that field house, in and around that field house. That's how you grow. That's how you land more NCAA Final Fours. But of course, they don't have a problem with that since the NCAA is in Indianapolis. But other events, Indianapolis is one of, if not the greatest host of sporting events in this country. They are built for it, and they continue to build themselves for it.
And what this also helps, and more of our line of work is Big Ten stuff. It's more Big Ten tournaments, men's and women's. It's hopefully keeping the Big Ten football championship game in Indianapolis. We got good news. At least it's being reported that Big Ten Media Days is going to be at Lucas Oil Stadium. Thank God, because you and I both agree that was a far superior setup to what they had. I mean, I almost got ran over by Antoine Brooks, a defensive back from Maryland a few years ago. And that would have not been pretty for me. But because you remember, Jim, going through in Chicago, there's no space to move. You can't, and there's wires running every which direction, and you're tripping and fall. It's such a pain. So I was so happy to hear the reports that it's going to be in Indianapolis, because
the Big Ten is really the thing that kills them. They have this big luncheon up there during the Big Ten football media days. And it's a moneymaker apparently for them. And they've not been able to have that luncheon with it in Indianapolis. Why? I don't know. I guess the bunny people are coming from Chicago for some reason. But that's a big thing that they've lost. I do know that.
Well, I don't think there's going to be once you have it again, if you have it in Indianapolis, you're going to be able to drive traffic. You might not have as much, but you'll get people to attend that thing. They'll come to Indianapolis.
Yeah, I don't know
it's not like you have to go to Indianapolis in November, December, when it's cold, and you're going to attract people in July.
The Big Ten football media days and kickoff luncheon will not be held as scheduled. The media days were. This was last year's. That luncheon, I'd like to get more information on that, why that's such a big deal. But it must be I don't understand why they couldn't do that there either. Yeah, like you said, but of course the Big Ten's located in Chicago, so they want to do stuff there. I think they should move to Indianapolis. I think they should move to Indianapolis.
Too. I agree with that. Yep. 100%.
I think but they're not going to, because it's Chicago and it's a much bigger marketplace for them, which they're concerned about marketplace. That's why Rutgers is a part of the Big Ten. That's why Maryland is a part of the Big Ten for the New York and Washington, D.C. TV markets.
Yeah, but why does it matter? Like, and I'll use this as an example. The SEC
ratings, baby.
But it doesn't matter if they're in Indianapolis or Chicago. It doesn't matter if the network is. Look at the Paul Feinbaum show on SEC Network. I'm pretty sure he's located out of Charlotte.
I was going to say.
There's no SEC
Charlotte's
team.
Big host.
Yeah,
but
there are no SEC teams there. So I don't think
there's
it matters
no SEC.
where they're located.
But the SEC doesn't have I don't think it would matter either, personally.
Atlanta. The SEC could be in Atlanta if they wanted to.
Yeah, right. And so I agree. It doesn't. I don't think they're going to move out of Chicago, though. I wish they would. That would be great. But I'd say that they're a bunch of Chicago people, and they're probably going to stay there.
That's probably true.
But it is what it is. But the Big Ten, speaking of the Big Ten, they're in the process of trying to sign all these new TV contracts. That's a big, big deal, because they're looking for big daddy dollar money, man. And we're talking the Big Ten teams led the country anyway. They're a full-fledged member was pulling in, like Indiana was pulling in, about $51 million. This could take this up to $70 million a year that they would pull in from their TV rights per school. And now, who is that going to be? It has been Fox has been their main partner, and ESPN seems too stretched out to be able to do that. ESPN has got the Big 12 and the ACC networks, so they seem kind of tapped out to me with space and money. That leaves Fox and maybe CBS.
Well, CBS, NBC, they've talked about potentially. There was, I think Turner Sports, TNT was one of the names mentioned, and then they're looking at potential streaming services with Amazon. And I understand business from a business perspective and business decision why they would do that, but if they go to streaming service, that is going to suck. Because if you're active on Twitter, like I have to be during the season, we're going to know what happens via Twitter 3 minutes before it happens on the streaming service. Now you have a problem with that with cable but it's usually like 20 seconds, sometimes a minute, depending on what you're watching on. And I know people deal with that with YouTube TV, Hulu, some of that stuff. But to me personally, like it's going to drive me insane to know what happens 3 minutes before it actually happens.
But the Big Ten does suffer from lack of exposure, but they get a lot less exposure on, say, SportsCenter, because these are not ESPN games. ESPN is not going to be jumping up and down to show highlights from games that are not on their network.
Yeah, but does that matter?
Yes, it does matter, because everybody in the world watches SportsCenter. Not everybody watches the games. Man, come on.
No. This is where you're wrong. They're not. You can form your own newspaper on Twitter, and so if you're following not ESPN, but you're following Fox, Amazon, they're going to have those highlights. So you'll go to Twitter, you'll type in what you're searching for, and you'll find those highlights.
I'm talking about at nighttime when SportsCenter comes on, and most people that are watching SportsCenter, they're not going to see the Big Ten highlights like you do from the ACC and the SEC, because those games are not on their network, and they're not going to promote them. They're going to promote the products that they put out, because they want you to go watch them again, and they want you to watch their products. So, and Fox just doesn't have that cachet. I don't know. Does that hurt the Big Ten or not? I don't know.
I think you're overvaluing how many people watch SportsCenter. I don't think that's a thing really anymore. I think it's on because it has to be, but like people probably of older generations continue to watch it, but people in high school to college, my age, I think they're looking at their phones for the highlights. I don't know that I don't think it hurts the Big Ten from a exposure standpoint, in my opinion.
I'll actually second that, considering I'm 24 years old in that demographic, and I don't really watch sports.
They haven't. It like ESPN hasn't been. They've been very ACC and SEC heavy in the past. It hasn't stopped the Big Ten from getting a ton of money from Fox.
I'm not saying it's going to stop them. Well, no, it's not going to stop them from getting money from Fox either. I'm just saying, has that, the Big Ten has sucked in basketball as far as not winning a national championship. That kind of coincided with not appearing on, when you move out. I'm just saying they're outside of the mainstream of what everyone was fed for a long time. Everyone was fed North Carolina and Duke, and all that stuff. And because the ESPN owns those networks, they own the ACC network, they own the SEC network. Those are the teams that they want to promote.
Okay, but here's what I would say how I would counter that. First of all, look at Gonzaga. They played in 2 national championship games, and they don't get exactly the most exposure. The second part of that is look at how Duke recruited. Look at how North Carolina recruited. Look at how Kansas.
Did they only play in 1 national championship game?
I'm pretty sure they played in 2, didn't they? Maybe 2 Final Fours.
2 Final Fours.
Okay. So I'm pretty sure it's 2 national championships. I can look that up later. But
you might be right.
To me, it's more about how they've recruited. And I think the Big Ten has been more, let's say, honest in their recruiting. More guys play by the rules. That's just my opinion. I don't know if that's true. The other thing is the Big Ten has to get away from these big, like forming a team around guys like Kofi Coburn, Zach Edey. Trace Jackson Davis has more of it because if he can develop a shot, I think he's a little bit more athletic and can stretch the floor a little bit more. Thank you, Ross. Hasn't watched SportsCenter in years. So I think it's more about style of play and recruiting than it is about exposure. Everybody's lighting Jim up here. I was right.
Well, hey, I'm putting him up there, baby, so it don't bother me.
1 minute.
Oh, perfect timing. I don't have to take this anymore. I don't have to take this. I can just leave. I don't have to take this kind of.
He's entering the portal, folks.
That's right. I'm entering the portal. Tomorrow's Oaks Day, Kentucky Oaks Day. I'd planned on doing the show from down there, but I'm having second thoughts because it is about 90% chance of rain tomorrow. So I'm not sure about that, but you'll find out when we come on whether we are or just coming from here again. But I can't thank everybody enough, as always. Big thanks to Chris Denari, to Matt Taylor, of course, to Derrick Jackson, and of course our good friend Dustin Schutte for making Thursdays as fun as they always are. Thanks to John, producer, and most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. Make sure you support our sponsors. Without them, we have no way of being here to bring this great content to you. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. Make sure you head out to the Craw Fest that's coming up in a couple weeks and go to Jordan Hall's golf event and make sure you sign up for that. Never Lose Hoop. We've got that on Hoosier.com. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.